Hello everybody, welcome back. We are 7 days from my first show for 2025 season. I'm a little bit nervous, but hey, we're here today in the gym, Flex and Flow, my home gym. We've just ran into some, I guess we'll call them fans, and they have driven all the way from Sarasota to come and check out the gym because they saw it on YouTube, which is so cool. So very fun to have some people in the gym to hang out with this morning, but it's going to be a big workout. I'm basically going to go through all muscle groups. I think I'll probably skip bis and tris because they're not that important, but essentially everything else. I want to get a lot of calories expended today and get as lean as I possibly can in the next 24 hours because I'm making my decision tomorrow. So I don't want to hop on stage next weekend if I'm not like feeling really good. I've got another big show coming up, Pittsburgh Pro, May 10. So that's kind of the most important one that I'm prepping for. So yeah, we'll see if today's workout goes well. I get all my cardio done. Hopefully I'm in good shape for next weekend. So let's head over. We're gonna start with our lower body. Let's get started. Does anybody else feel like when they're here at the gym, they have to redo their hair like 65 times? I don't know whether it's because I have mine out or whatever, but it's so annoying. Start with lunges. I'm gonna do, what do I want to do? Probably a single leg lunge. We'll start with that, pick the obvious. We'll do reverse lunges today. So I'm not working off a program, obviously. So nutrition wise, what have I had to eat this morning? Absolutely nothing. Personal preference. A lot of people will, I guess, state that, oh, I do fasted cardio or what have you. So there aren't really any advantages or disadvantages. I guess they're both equally effective if you're creating a calorie deficit. Both approaches can work. But I think for me personally, because I've always struggled with IBS, I just have a really sensitive GI. So having something in the morning, I just don't feel good when I train. So I would rather be a little bit fasted, but like have a happy gut because I just seem to get so much irritation from so many things. Sorry. Yeah, I'll usually come home and eat like a bigger meal right after like I've worked out. So yeah, no food for me this morning, but not because it's superior. That's how I roll. This is one of the hardest, grossest exercises for suffocating. I forgot to start my workout. Dang it. I'm sure my heart rate's like 170 right now. I love that it matches the gym too. This is my little Dragon Ball Z edition. I have so much anime on the walls here. I love it. Oh, they're literally playing Dragon Ball Z right now. So a couple things about this exercise. Usually I'll do them with a front foot elevated, but I've got a couple of exercises today that I'm probably going to target my glutes for that will be more direct. So for this exercise, because I'm not elevating my foot, it's probably a nice even split between quad focus and glute focus for me. But if you jack that front foot up, you get a much bigger stretch through your glute. So I would say it's a little more glute focused. One more sip. Just admiring the Smith machine. Some of them are like so heavy loaded and they've got like almost a pressure about them when you lunge, so you don't necessarily have even distribution of the weight the whole way through. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but when you're used to working with like a specific weight and you go and use one of those like loaded Smith machines where there's like pressure, I don't know, you end up having to change around all of your weights and it just takes a lot more to get used to. So this is so smooth. I really like it. I'm guessing that it's also Premier. They have everything Premier here. Yeah, it's Premier. We should do a hair tally. How many times does Holly do her hair in the workout? I bet double digits. I bet. We need some of the sniffing salts.
Oh, you know,
I had those.
I was listening to Joe Rogan the other day, and they sniffed it on the podcast.
Yep.
I was thinking, I wonder if that actually would be better than like pre-workout. How, you know how long it lasts? Is it like really cute?
It's instant, yeah. It's so cute. Yeah, you could probably do it for like your main lifts. I think it gets pretty overwhelming, like your eyes water.
Can you?
It's such a
is there
huge.
like an upper limit of how many sniffs you could do? You know?
I don't know that I've ever read the warning label on a sniffing salt, but I mean the powerlifters use it all the time. I use it for my powerlifting shows. Very effective. I mean, if you are feeling tired or you don't have a whole lot of energy, oh my gosh, like you are going to wake up whether you like it or not. Yeah.
I was thinking about like even if you're in a computer writing.
Yes. Yeah, like some alertness. I don't know whether there'd have to be some kind of tolerance or like upper limit. I can't say that it will. I don't know whether it's healthy or not.
For the video, do not do this. We've done zero research.
I think it's just
thoughts of the day.
Yeah, exactly. You could be here a while, guys. This is like going through the kitchen sink. Got some heels in here, just an extra power cord in case you need one. Band-aids. Sam asked for deodorant the other day, and Sam's like, yeah, I've got some deodorant. I'm like, what? Just literally everything in there. I'm like, what else you got in that thing? All right. Okay, so next exercise is going to be RDLs, hamstrings. I haven't used this before, and it does have the catch kind of preventing full range of motion here. So for that reason, I went and got the step. Everyone always asks, well, why are you using a step? I have extremely flexible hamstrings. So if I was to do this movement and like stop at the bottom, I'd be just around my knees, and that's not going to get me full range of motion. So there's, again, nothing inherently wrong with not training through a full range of motion. You're just going to be a lot stronger in that shortened muscle length position. So you'll find that you probably have to do a lot more repetitions if you're just training through a partial. And it's going to take you a lot longer to get to failure. So I mean, in terms of efficiency, full range of motion also just makes sense and it feels comfortable. So yeah, oh wow, this is stacked. This is, oh no, I've got to add. I'm like, how does this thing work? Prefer to do a sumo RDL on the Smith. I just really like the isolation and where it targets. There's so many other exercises that I could do to hit just my hamstrings regularly, like dumbbell RDLs, barbell RDLs. But a sumo RDL almost calls for you to be in a fixed position. It's really hard to do it with a free weight, but I don't know that I'm going to be able to do it. I'll try my next set. But it just gets a little bit more stretch, also a little bit more adductor, which you can't do in those free weights. I think I've done 3 sets. Have I done 3 sets? The downsides of not having breakfast. What am I going to do next? I think I want to do a hack squat. They have the world's smoothest hack squat here, so we're going to head into the other room. Again, still kind of targeting quads and glutes for that exercise, but again, you can manipulate whether it's more glute or more quad, depending on where we place our feet on the foot plate. So let's go to third lower body exercise. Premier, if you're in the market for a hack squat, it does have a semi-large footprint, but look, I've gotten on so many hacks over the years and they are so heavy, gritty, sticky. The difference about this one is that they're on a beautiful little roller. So I should just probably become like the marketing person from Premier. We'll make this all about pieces of equipment for your garage gym. Yeah, I really like this stuff. I guess to speak about that, actually, I've got so many clients that have like multiple goals. So just off the top of my head, I have a few people that are doing Ironman events, but they also still care about their health and their aesthetic. And yeah, those two goals do not work very well together because the amount of energy provision that you need to perform and train, literally like some of the rides that they're doing are like 5 hours on the bike and then they'll jump off and immediately do a 1 hour run. So, you know, the amount of fuel provision we have to kind of calculate, but then at the same time, they're like, oh, but I'd still like to lose weight. But then they don't like feeling bad when they're training. It's like these things are so difficult to kind of put together. So yeah, you've got to be really smart about those things. Like I've ended up convincing a few people that are either training for like a half marathon or something similar like that. Let's focus on your performance goal first. You know, we'll find a good amount of calories that feel sustainable for you, and then we'll switch focus and, you know, do the cut or do the build free of all of these other stresses. And I suppose that's kind of incorporating a little bit of the theories of periodization, which if we wanted to chat about that, I'd just handball the mic over to to Sam. Do you want to talk about periodization? Because I think so many people get this really confused. I'll do my set as well, and you can enjoy some education at the same time. Yes, I think I was asked about it on a podcast just recently, and I guess there was this assumption that you should always periodize your program. And I kind of tried to explain that, you know, it's more about juggling competing stresses. And if you've only got one stress, which is your resistance training, and you're focusing on hypertrophy, it's probably not necessary. But maybe you can talk a little bit more about the specifics and how you would describe it to your students. I know you've published so many papers on this topic.
Can you rephrase the question one more time? What's the scenario?
A scenario, okay. I've got a client, she is 50 years old. She wants to really improve her muscle mass. So she's, you know, just taken up some resistance training. She also tells me she wants to get really strong. And then she wants to continue to do running and like other, you know, she's got a lot of different goals. So how does periodization kind of fit into that kind of concept? And when is it maybe not important? That question.
So periodization has meant so many different things in the literature, and I think two different people. For some people, it means that you have changes in your programming fairly regularly, like variation in what you're doing. I think a more modern take on periodization is this idea that you're considering all the stressors you have and trying to balance those stressors appropriately. And, you know, if you look at a lot of the research on periodization, over time, volume goes down in a training program over 8 weeks and intensity goes up. And that's called linear periodization. Linear periodization was developed, to my understanding, in the context of sport. And in that context of sport, the reason you spent less volume or had less volume training is because you're spending more time in your sport. So you were balancing those stressors. So maybe periodization to a lot of people has become just a fancy word for stress management. Like, how do you manage training for a distance event, losing weight and getting stronger? You're going to sacrifice probably all of those goals when you're focusing on 3 different things, but maybe you can program it in a way that's optimal considering the circumstance. But periodization, I think, typically would dictate, as your running distances have to increase because you're getting closer to your goal of running that race, it would dictate that your time in the gym would need to decrease to balance that stressor. And I think that would be how you'd periodize that scenario. You're balancing your stressors such that when one has to go up, you bring the other one down to promote recovery. But if they're recovering anyway, and it's not an issue, then maybe you don't have to pull down the volume in the weight room. That was long-winded.
Oh, thank you there, Dr. Buckner. Good, that just allowed me to like suffocate quietly in the corner while he explained that. So, all right, next set. are now doing the glute kickback. So I will say this is not my favorite machine. I probably like some of the Nauticus, and I don't know, there's a few different brands that are perhaps a little bit more functionally suitable for my anatomy. The downside with this is, I guess, in order to get a good range of motion, like a good stretch, you have to put your foot right up on the top of the plate here, which is fine, but it then introduces a little bit more of your quad. So yeah, this isn't as isolating to the glute max as I would like it. So like my quad is potentially limiting me from doing more reps, which, I mean, I'm getting some extra quad volume. The other thing that I usually do with this particular machine is, because of the moment arm and I guess where this loads, when you extend all the way out, it loses some tension. So I will often put the band on this bad boy. So I'm gonna do that today. I'm gonna warm up without it, and then I'll throw the band on, see how it's feeling. I am feeling pretty weak, so we'll see how that goes. I might end up taking the band off, but yeah, so glute max. And if you turn your foot out to the side just a little bit like this on that 45, you can also recruit a little bit more of your glute medius, but it's not gonna isolate it. So if you are time poor and you're like, oh, I've got to run, I didn't get to do my glute medius on the hip abduction or something, if you've got one exercise to do, you can potentially do this, but kick the foot to the side and you'll get a little bit of both. So let's do it. All right, how is prep going? You know what? This prep has been doable and extremely manageable given the circumstances. So obviously, if you've been tuning into my weekly check-ins, I have talked to you guys about the fact that this is the first prep I've ever done where I basically did no cardio. You couldn't have paid me enough to even believe that that was possible at one point like 10 years ago. But I know why I've been able to do that this time around. It's because over like 8 years, it's just consistently building and building and building and sitting at a body fat percentage that was not comfortable. It allowed me to put on a good amount of muscle, and that just increases your BMR. So your basal metabolic rate is jacked up. For every 1 kilogram that you increase your muscle mass by, it takes your BMR by about 22 to 25 calories. That doesn't sound like a whole lot in and of itself. You know, maybe your maintenance calories or your BMR, was like, I don't know, 1,200, and you get up to 1,300 as a result of that. It's when you then move that more muscular body that you have so much more potential to burn more calories. So I think just me being the sedentary individual that I am when I'm at home, just walking my dog, walking back and forth to the kitchen to get a drink, maybe hoarding to when I'm tired because I don't want to do it twice. I just burn more calories now, which is helpful. But I've had to do so much of the restriction through dietary means alone. But yeah, I'm surprised that I've been able to get to this point. I did have to reintroduce, obviously, cardio in the last week, like 2 or 3 runs. I went for 3 runs and I did 60 minutes of walking every day, which I don't even know how I fit it in. I'm pretty sure I was walking on the treadmill at like midnight. But anyway, we got it done. But energy levels, they've been okay. And I think that's because I haven't been busting my ass, like slaving over cardio. Like I've just been focused on the nutrition because that's all I've had the control over. So it's been okay from an energy standpoint. I definitely feel like you lose a little bit of your soul, like in the last 5 weeks. Like you want to show up, you want to have energy. Like I'm generally a pretty positive person. But I can feel myself kind of like waving in and out where like I'm just not able to be present and engaged in something, whether it's a conversation with Sam or I don't know, whatever it is I'm doing. I feel like I can't really fully get behind it because your body just has other plans. It's like thinking about 20 other things, probably my ADD as well. But yeah, I mean, sleep has been okay. I've noticed that I've started to wake up a little bit more in the middle of the night for no reason. And I think it's just that, you know, innate hunger, like my leptin levels are low, my ghrelin levels are high. It's just kind of signaling you to eat. What else? Oh, thermostat. Thermostat is broken. So I basically walk around my house with like, I don't know, a woolly mammoth jumper on and blankets whilst I do my coaching check-ins, and it's 85 degrees outside. So there's the thermostat issues. I take a jumper everywhere I go now, even if it's 80. And it's just ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. But I mean, better than being cold. So yeah, thermostat's a little broke. I could do without that. I remember sitting in a restaurant once with a napkin around my shoulders because I didn't take a jumper. So yeah, there's that. But generally, it's good. Like I've done this for 10 years now. So it's kind of, you get used to the difficulty. And someone actually asked the other day, they were like, how do you stay positive and motivated through it all? And I think you can choose to focus on the negative things. You can choose to, be preoccupied with like the bad, the challenge and, the frustration of it all. And you can carry that negative energy with you. The time is going to pass anyway. So why not find light in, the difficulty, look for the small things, take the little wins. And it's just such a more enjoyable experience. And, I said recently, to a client who has just started their fat loss journey or their muscle building journey, to be honest. And they were so frustrated because they had to get to an uncomfortable body fat percentage in their first, building phase, or they were just frustrated that they couldn't be leaner. I have to stay like this so that I can, train well, have energy, and not be surviving on nothing. And then, going into the cut, they still had to drop their calories really low and they still weren't seeing the physique yet that they wanted. And I just had to remind them, hey, you're comparing yourself to people, like the people that you aspire to be like, have been doing this for years and years and years and training and going through those hard processes that you are doing right now. It's just, they're 10 years ahead. So, you have to modify your expectations, if you've just started, because muscle doesn't grow quickly. We're talking a few millimeters every couple of months if you're consistent and if you hit your protein targets and if you ate enough energy and if you weren't super lean. So, yeah, I think you've got to find like joy in the process, because if you always think about how horrible it is sitting at a body fat percentage you're not happy with, or like you're waiting for the end to finally feel good about yourself, you're going to be waiting a really long time. So like I used to do that. Like that was me like 5 years ago, as recently as 5 years ago. And I remember just getting to the point where I was like, this is miserable. Like, why are you doing this to yourself? Change your attitude. So yeah, I did that. It was difficult. I basically turned myself inside out and I feel like I'm like literally a different person. But it's so worth it. But yeah, if you just are starting out on your muscle building journey, be patient, get a good training buddy, make sure you've got some good music and a good gym to train at, and just enjoy it. So, yeah. That's the gym comedian there. It's a the owner. Next, and I think this will be a final lower body exercise. Oh no, I've got to do my immediates. Oh my God, what am I thinking, guys? So calves, I really don't spend a whole lot of time training my calves because I don't do a sport anymore that requires me to be springy. I don't really need to jump very high anymore. So if you are somebody that runs or does basketball or tennis or anything that requires some agility and performance, you probably still want to train your calves to be strong and probably have some hypertrophy as well thrown in there. So I would be recommending doing like at least 12 sets. Now, I don't think many of y'all, if you do care about your calves, are doing enough sets to actually elicit muscle growth. And I hear this all the time, like many of the guys, I don't want to call them boys, the men that I train, they'll say to me, Holly, I just can't grow my calves. They're like the muscle group that won't grow. And I'll say to them, okay, well, great, let's have a look. What are you doing for your calves? And like, yeah, I hit them twice a week. I do about 8 sets. And I'm like, great, so you're doing a maintenance volume. Like you were never gonna grow your calves. I'm like, is that how you apply your training to all the other muscle groups? Like how many sets do you do in your chest? And they're like, probably maybe close to 20. I'm like, and you wonder why your calves aren't growing? Like you have to treat them the same as any other muscle group. So yeah, if you're an athletic person and you wanna have just good general performance, do your calves. And I'd probably mix up your rep ranges as well. You could incorporate some strength, so less than 8 reps. You could probably also do some hypertrophy as well, and maybe even some explosive stuff. I know me, for a track sprinter, one of the things that we used to do, like when I was 15 through to 20, like sprinting, our coach had us doing plyometric calves. So we'd literally be like throwing the leg press away and like catching it to kind of practice that explosive movement out of the block. And then also just having, that explosive, powerful calf for sprinting. So, yeah. Sam, what's your theory on this? Why do calves hurt so much more than other muscle groups when you take them to failure? For hypertrophy specifically. Any theories? I feel like to me, it and maybe my quads and a leg extension, so much more unbearable than any other muscle group.
A trans-theoretical model. No.
You had something serious.
Yeah, nothing. Maybe more nociceptors. Maybe
Less blood flow?
maybe the contractions more restricting, creating more occlusion.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's their location, the very bottom. When you push, I don't know. I'm making stuff up. It's probably
Hypothesize.
Yeah.
I think most people would agree. Like, it's a painful.
We do this in class all the time, where we come up with ideas that make no sense. It's fine to do that. Well, you can have an idea, but I have nothing immediately on the top of my head, other than either something with occlusion from the contraction and pain receptors. But I don't know.
I have nothing.
We also have to survey people to find out if it's actually more painful.
Okay.
Maybe it is. Maybe we're better at training to failure with them. Maybe it's the muscle tendon. So the Achilles is right there. So maybe it has something to do with the connective tissue.
All right, if you're watching this video, please leave a comment if you think that calves, of all the exercises, when you take them to failure, are one of the most uncomfortable compared to other muscle groups.
The newest paper in the calf sphere.
Oh, the lengthened partials.
They did. Let me just show everybody what they did. Well, my mind just doesn't work today. They did lengthened partials. So they did it though on a.
Sian and colleagues, I believe.
Yeah,
is that right?
yeah, Stian Larson, nice guy. But they did lengthened partials versus full range of motion calf raise. This would be better if we show them.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's show the people. I'm going to have to try to recall the results of this paper live, but I think I can. They did lengthened partials. I think I want to say it was between a 10 and 20 RM. So just the lengthened part at the bottom. That was one group. The other group did full range of motion up and down. And after they did like a 10 RM, and then they did 5 or 10 lengthened partial drop sets. So they did drop set to just the bottom of the range of motion where it's a lengthened position. So you're comparing a partial range of motion to a full range of motion drop set to lengthened partials. In both instances, you're training to or near failure. You're getting a good amount of contraction, a good number of sets. I want to say it was an 8-week study, but it might have been a 10-week study. I think it was twice a week.
I haven't read it yet.
But anyway, when you look at the muscle growth data, there was about, I want to, and I didn't plan on going to this paper. I think there was a 0.13 centimeter increase in the full range of motion drop set group and a 0.19 centimeter increase in muscle thickness in the just lengthened partial training condition in the medial gastroc. So they only measured muscle at one site, and they had a difference in the magnitude of about 0.05 centimeters. Now, this paper, what you're going to hear online inevitably is that lengthened partials are superior. You need to train lengthened partials. They're better. Sample size was 23 people. It was a within subject design. So, when you have a 0.05 centimeter difference between your groups, even if you can say with some level of certainty that you think they're statistically different, that's not meaningful in my mind.
Actually, it looks like on a ruler 0.05.
Well, I think moreover, when and next time we're in the lab, we'll do this. If I measure the same image twice on my ultrasound, I might get 4.1 centimeters on my first time, and I might get 4.15 the second time I measure the same exact image. So, I mean, that's how small it is on the device that they use to measure muscle. So I think it's a responsibility of the scientists to temper expectations and tell people, like, from the perspective of some people, maybe they think lengthened partials are better. I think some people truly believe that. But to speak with any authority and certainty on the data is just, in my opinion, it's irresponsible. I'm not saying the authors of this particular paper have done that, but I anticipate that that's going to happen because people love drama and stuff online nowadays. But the findings of that paper to me are not compelling because it's just a small amount of muscle growth in both groups. And the difference between them, I don't think is real. I don't think you could replicate it. And the calves are also a very difficult muscle to image. I've done it in one study, but I practiced for about 6 months before we did that measurement in the study. And I still would say my confidence to measure calf muscle growth is much less than my confidence to measure quadriceps muscle growth, which is less than my confidence to measure bicep muscle growth. And I think all these nuances of actually interpreting research and determining the meaning of different studies is difficult to do. And it's something that I think we both try to be better and better at when we can. And it's not about being critical or being mean. It's about just weighing the evidence and trying to be realistic. And one of the things I like to do is maybe bring balance to some of these conversations online where they're just going a little bit too far. I don't even read the paper yet, but
No.
anything, Nat?
Well, I read the abstract. I was about to read the paper. Sorry, I can't really speak to the specifics on the results, but if your reporting of that data is true, I mean, it doesn't change anything for me in terms of how I would then write a program. For me right now, lengthened partials serve as a cool variant that I can implement in training to mix it up, to create enjoyment, so it's not so repetitive and mundane. So
I'll say one more thing. At the end of the day, I don't think you should care about this study. And what I mean by that is I don't think you should start changing the way you train calves. I also think we got to be careful because if you only measure the quad in one area, and I can't remember the exact area, like what if the squeeze at the top is good for growth like up here or something? It just wasn't measured in the study. So the study can only tell you what it can tell you, which is this one site they picked, this one spot. They think it might be a little bit better from the length of partials versus the full range of motion, but they didn't image the entire calf.
yeah.
So you can't conclude that it's definitely better. I would assume actually that you're missing out on something without doing the full range of motion.
Yeah.
Just a hunch.
Comparison's sake too, like in most of the studies that you measure the quad, I'll do 3 sites at like the 30, 50 and the 70% site so that you can see whether there are differences at the distal or proximal portion of the leg. So yeah, maybe that's like a limitation of that paper, but I mean, I'm not going to be rushing out to do any calf studies. I don't care. I think our next study is going to be on glutes and shoulders. But, you know, we have to take this information for what it is, as Sam said. You can only apply it to what you can apply it to. It can't necessarily transfer to, I don't know, 70-year-olds or postmenopausal women. Like, you can't necessarily carry it across. But, yeah.
And if Stan watches this, congrats on the paper. Like it's important work, but each study is just a tiny, tiny step. I would say the same thing about my own work. Like I presented some of my stuff to a lab group yesterday. I'm like, yeah, this study, I don't think we really learned anything, or we found out that this didn't work, or it's like you try to move forward a little bit, but you don't get to the end point, what people want, very quickly. You inch your way towards knowing more. And sometimes you do the opposite and you don't intend to, but you just put yourself in this gray area where you're even less sure than you were when you started the study. So.
All that to say, let's do our final set of calves.
Oh my God, we're only halfway through this workout. We haven't even done our upper body yet. God, we've been here for an hour and 42 minutes. If I had a towel, I'd throw it in. That's it, guys. I'm gonna create myself a little shield here. Glute medius, final lower body exercise today. I told you it was going to be a long one. I didn't think we were going to be here for this long, but hey, the price you pay for loving exercise. Hip abduction. I could do any variation here. I could do a forward leaning, tall, leaning back. I'm just trying to think what else I've done this week so that I can do the opposite. I think most of my other ones this week have been leaning forwards. So I will probably position myself a little bit more further back in the seat. And again, that's just going to isolate the glute medius a little bit more relative to being forwards. Instantly, you're getting a little bit more glute recruitment through the max. It just means you're going to be stronger in that forward position. So this machine, Pro Maxima, doesn't have the knees touching when you start the movement. You start more like here. So I don't have full range of motion. So me putting those pads in is going to give me a little bit more. So let's do it. Oh my God. Have mercy on me tomorrow. Every machine, because I have trained at so many different locations, it's been really hard to track volume. So like in my app, obviously we have a fantastic volume tracking and analytics tool. So you can put in exactly what your weight was. It'll tell you your volume for the exercise, the entire training session, and then the entire week, which is certainly something I want you to care about, because being able to see your volume progressing is a sign that you're making some improvements, not only in strength, because so many of you really care about that, but also for hypertrophy too. But it carries less weight when you're constantly in different gyms because all of the machines load differently. So I must say it does frustrate me a little bit because every time I come to the gym, it is nice to be in the same environment and you know exactly what weight to select. So there's no second guessing your, sets and your reps because you know what weight you're using. So I've found often I'll have to do like a really crazy high rep range. So like my first set here, I wasn't going to waste any more time, obviously. I just went through to like 35 reps. Now that's not super efficient, but I just misloaded it. Because I don't use this machine enough to know the weight. So again, it doesn't matter. Even in my programs, if I tell you to do 15 reps or 12 reps, you can change that. If you care about hypertrophy, you can go all the way up to like 50 or 60 reps if you wanted. I wouldn't recommend it. It's very time consuming, but that is less important than like being able to get to failure and train at that high degree of intensity. So you can modify and change those numbers around if you need to. I would just say, don't load up your weight so much so when you're focusing on muscle growth to the point where your rep ranges fall below like 8. Now you're starting to move into like a gray area, and like the closer you get to 1, the less carryover that's going to have in terms of being able to grow. That is training like your neuromuscular adaptations to build strength and to develop that skill, but it's not going to necessarily help you get more muscular, if that makes sense. So yeah, and I've wasted enough time. I can do my next set. Point. I have seen so many like iterations of exercises being done over the years, and you just see something like overly complicated and they're like, okay, we've got this exercise and we call it such and such and such and such, like it's a special, fancy technique. And ultimately all of these approaches, whether it's pulse reps, full range reps, pause reps, partial reps, blood flow restriction reps, reps with chains, like they all achieve the same outcome. It's just a different way to getting there. I just said there's many paths to Rome. Sorry, Sam's previous set with 6 iterations was just him being Sam.
That's not true. Send me $25 and we'll unlock the secrets for you.
Yeah, let's do it. Come on, harder.
moving on to the back. So I'm going to hit lats doing this exercise. So we've got kind of like a neutral shoulder width. I haven't used this in a little while, actually. I don't normally have this attachment where I go and train. So yeah, neutral attachment. It's going to hit a bit of lat. Depending on, I guess, the angle of your body. If you lean back, you're actually going to end up getting a little bit more of your rhomboids, like mid-back. And I think I've mentioned this in one of my previous videos too. So you hear people talking about like cheat reps, strict reps, and people have strong opinions about one is better than the other, or definitely don't do it this way. There's nothing wrong with cheating a rep. Like, you can do that as much as you like. Ultimately, it's going to afford you to achieve a higher volume. So if you care about seeing the numbers on your paper look a little bit higher, sure, cheat a few reps, you'll get a few more out by swaying, but just recognize that you're potentially using other muscles now. So you're no longer necessarily targeting that same muscle group. Or in the case of this pull down, if I do strict reps where I'm coming straight down, I can feel that primarily in my lats. But if I start to angle myself out, I'm just going to take this down for demonstrative purposes. If I start to bring it down into this position here, now it's more like a row. Like, I'm now hitting my mid back. So it's just changing where you're targeting throughout the movement. So if you want to cheat rep, go for it. Just recognize that when you do something strict, you're probably isolating a specific muscle group, but then as you start to move around, you're just starting to recruit different muscles, and that's okay. It just becomes harder to track how much volume you've done on each of your muscle groups if that's something that you care about growing.
There was another paper recently.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Well, I think the title is like, is it Did Cheaters Prosper or something?
Yeah, this is the part.
And I guess in their study, doing cheat reps led to the same growth as doing strict reps. And like the conclusion across a lot of social media was, you could do cheat reps, you could do regular reps, it doesn't matter. You gotta be careful in taking a literal interpretation of a study. Because that study did, I think, was it bicep curls? I don't remember, Holly. But anyway, like, a cheat rep does change the exercise, and it's going to involve other muscles that you may not want to train. So just because one muscle site in one paper changes the same does not mean a cheat rep is the same as a strict rep. I think. At least that'd be my perspective.
So I'm just adjusting that cable height just so that it's more closely in line with my shoulder. Before it was probably one too low, and I felt quite a bit more tension on my traps, which I don't really need to activate any more than they already do. Pretty sure my traps are active in a bloody abduction exercise. So we'll get rid of the traps by taking that cable up a little bit higher. There we go. And you're kind of bringing it all the way across. So see how I've got like a really nice big stretch here? And then I'm kind of coming down and across my body. Close. Look, this is the 50th time shaving my head. This exercise or this equipment over here is a really cool chest press. I'm not going to do it today because I don't need to train my chest, but I'll definitely show it to you. If you're a gym owner or you're looking to upgrade your home gym, it is so cool. It's unilateral, bilateral. It has the ability to kind of lock it into place. And you can do any incline. So we've got an adjustable seat here. Sounds pretty standard, but not normally do you see that with like a really nice smooth sliding action. Press. And then if you've got short arms, it's often a problem, you can't reach. There we go. So you can do this as bilateral, so bringing them down together at the same time. It's got a really good range of motion, so that's the bottom of the machine here. Pressing through, like so comfortable. Or you could do single arm, you could do alternating. Yeah, it's just, I like anything on a roller apparently. It's just so comfortable and it keeps you in a fixed plane of motion. So not a bad exercise. If you're training on your own and you want to go heavy, you don't have a spotter. this would probably be the one to load up on because it's a lot safer than doing a free barbell, and it's got safeties, yeah. So you can really adjust where that range of motion stops. So I would feel comfortable training late at night on my own in this gym because I would put the safeties on. So yeah, anyway, that's a really cool piece of equipment.
Textbook way to spot the overhead presses from the wrists, not the elbows. But I got that question wrong in my undergrad class in strength and conditioning. And I remember because I argued with the teacher. I'm like, I did a lot of overhead press at the time. And
It's really hard to grip in there when someone's got big bulky dumbbells too.
And if you're falling, like the leverage just to push your arms up always felt better to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's an NSCA textbook. Like the proper way to spot an overhead press is at the wrists. If you answer it at the elbows or under the arm, you'll get that question wrong in your CSCS exam.
Lessons learned. Sam giving away free tips. We'll create a study guide. That was another bicep curl for me right there. That was my 3 sets of bicep curls.
I feel like it's an inferior way to spot.
Yeah. It's just awkward, I think, as the spotter too. I'd much rather just grab the elbow and...
If you do like an upright row
Yeah.
instead of
We're getting pretty technical, you guys. Which way do you guys like to spot? It does. It's funny, my strength will drop from start of the season to end of the season. Comfortably pressing 35 to 40s for 8 to 12 reps. Obviously 1 week out, peasant calories. My strength is now at 25 for 15 reps.
And we're at 1,046 calories for this workout.
Oh yeah, let's have a look at mine. Here we go. I'm at 877 calories.
I was 147.
2 hours and 30 minutes. We've been talking way too much.
Here we are.
Finishing the last exercise. I haven't been counting. I'm guessing we're at like 10, but I was prepared for a longer session today. Lateral raises. So we've hit the rear delt. We've partially hit our anterior delt in that overhead press. So when I'm tracking volume for those two things, you might notice in my app when you see like medial or posterior or anterior shoulder, sometimes it'll give you like a half value. That's because at some point throughout the workout, there might have been an overhead press where you're getting some anterior activation. So rather than assigning a full 3 sets to just the medial or the lateral tendon of the shoulder, I'll also assign 0.5 to this part of the shoulder. So that would track as 1.5 sets if it was normally a 3-set exercise. Does that make sense? So that's how our entire kind of app functions. So there's always going to be fractional volume assigned to certain muscle groups if I know, like when I'm doing that movement, there's going to be some kind of activation. But anyway, we're going to finish with lateral raises. My favorite exercise. I just do this on repeat. You couldn't bore me with this exercise. I love it. Very effective. And I think also just keep in mind, if you really want to isolate that middle section of your shoulder, you've got to kind of rotate your elbow up a little bit. You can even see, like if I was to do a raise like this, I should have used a lighter one to demonstrate, but if I just come out here, you can see, like I can feel this part of my shoulder working a little bit more. As soon as I rotate, look at this activate. So if I'm leading with my elbow, that is so much more lateral. So that might be the one thing that I've kind of been really intentional about, knowing that for bikini, like you need to have those beautiful capped shoulders. So elbow kicking out, little finger kind of leads. It's the key to success. And a lot of repetition. All right, let's do it. Alrighty guys, so thank you so much for tuning in and joining me on today's workout. Obviously, full body. The whole point of today's session was to get maximal caloric expenditure, and I can tell you now, I think I got like 900 calories. We've been here for so long, but we hit everything except for bis and tris, and that was very intentional. Obviously, these are not really things that I want to grow at all. They already get hit secondary to some of the pressing and pulling movements anyway, but
I hope that you learned something. Huge thank you and shout out to Dr. Samuel Buckner of USF for kind of sharing his insights today on some of the research that's kind of coming out. He's a wealth of knowledge and I have learned so much from him over the last couple of years. And I wouldn't be a normal training session without also talking about the BiaFit app. So if you guys are looking to take your training to the next level, then you definitely want to go and check out my workout app. BiaFit, it has hundreds of programs for different experience levels, beginners all the way through to advanced lifting. We've got warm-ups and cardio. We have hypertrophy training, strength training, hybrid programs. Like we have everything in there. It's so flexible, so customizable, and we're just about to drop our brand new feature as well, which is literally build, customize, create your own workout, which is super handy for those of you that like extra flexibility. So go and sign up to that. You can check it out on Android and iOS. You can also download it from our website, which is where you get more flexibility because we can pause and make adjustments to your, I guess, subscription if you do it through our website. But thank you so much again. If you've got questions, please feel free to drop those in the comments below, and I will see you in 7 days, hopefully at my competition. See you soon, guys.